Hey, finally live. Wait, welcome. Welcome to the Curmudgeon in the Cellar, number 114. One of my favorite numbers, 114, as I was born on the 14th day of the first month. Let's see, am I not sitting up high enough tonight? I'm going to get hollered at. Well, too bad. It is what it is. Several things to talk about tonight. I'm going to read you a press release, and yes, it is something I'm involved with, and it's with one of the sponsors here, World of Game Design. Actually, two of them, Dice Fanatics. All right, and this has to do with the Kickstarter of mine that I've been telling you about. It's more. There's been some things going on. I'll explain it all in just a minute. It's all good news, in my opinion. Okay, this is a release from World of Game Design. We're pleased to announce that we have completed our latest acquisition of a seminal fan-created publication called the Manual of Aranea, and its unpublished cousin, the Librum, or however you pronounce it, Librum of Aranea. This vintage game setting is about as old school as it gets, with vintage line art from Hugh K. Singh and writing by Daniel Wagner and Larry E. Stale. From the hoary days of 1977, when a California gaming group at Arrow Hobbies, one of the great old original mom and pop hobby stores, became early adopters of this esoteric thing called role-playing games. The follow-on edition, called Librum of Oriana, was fully designed and laid out with a typewriter and cut-out illustrations with tape binding for 40 years, waiting for publication. I'll interject here. There's a reason. Because TSR Hobbies went to them and said, with a big letter of cease and desist, don't do that anymore, you're bad. And that's why this one died. Well, now's the time, and we'll be launching this Kickstarter in March 2020 with a vintage collection reprint of the Manual of Aranea and the Librum of Aranea, as well as a fully modernized and remade full-color version of both. Okay, also, the old guard is that'll be involved in this Kickstarter. I'll explain. Aranea is the name of this project that's going to be under Old Guard Games banner, and each of several of us, right now it's Jim Ward, Chris Clark, myself. I think that's it right now, but I think we're looking for more. No, there's another one there somewhere. I'm going to remember later on. Can't offhand. Anyway, those three, and I believe there might be a fourth person that we've added or not. I'm not sure. This has been under some flux. Here's why. One of the crucial components, people, in our production process of getting this original Kickstarter got a severe health scare, immediately followed by another severe health scare. And has been 2 months and getting it back together, recuperating, etc., which just threw an enormous monkey wrench into our process. That element of our production team is back fully functioning. In this world, each of us are going to have a continent, and we're going to write adventures on our continent. And I know for myself, my continent's going to have different basic things than other people's continents, because I'm simply going to condense now down my world of Makanda to the continent of Makanda will be part of this massive world that we're going to put out many supporting projects. Now, when I mentioned earlier about old artwork, this was the old artwork. This is the new artwork. It's been updated, to say the least. Let's see what else we got to talk about here. Okay, look for that in March. There's going to be and I'm sorry, the fourth person, Merle Rasmussen. This project's going to include things like these 7-inch hexes. They're all going to have complete stories written about that hex, what's in that hex, what's going on in that hex. I've already got 2 or 3 buildings I'm thinking about that it could be one-shot adventures in or of the building. A lot of different things. There's going to be special dice. There's going to be a dice tower that emits smoke and steam. I probably, who knows, there may be figures. I'm not sure. But this Kickstarter, as I will say, as I have said earlier, it's not going to be a one piled on goal after another. It's going to be a whole bundle. Here it is. Do you want it? Now, for those people that have been promised sets of dice, a solution has been arrived at. You can go to the World of Game Design Workshop or look up Dice Fanatics and type in the word for a code, Aranea, AURANIA, the world of this new world project, the name of this world project we're doing. And you can get a random dice pack for simply the postage. So finally, I'm going to be able to deliver what I've been promising is free dice. So there you go. It's taken a while. Like I said, part of our production team got very, very ill. So now we'll get into questions. And then at the end, we'll talk about TotalCon. Wow. I don't need these now anymore because I know what the questions say. Okay, I plan to campaign using Yakuza gangsters, and I'm sure they mean rogue smugglers, but apparently they're smuggling rouge. I didn't know there was a great market for rouge. All right, joke aside. In a medieval fantasy, Cellar Port City. The newly arrived characters would be common classes, but 2 players would have to play a ninja posing as a gangster and his enforcer, a saber-toothed Catman warrior from the dark parts of a foreign jungle. Well, it sounds like a very interesting storyline. Having players play against each other doesn't always work out very well. In the early days of the thief class, there's a lot of hard feelings when thieves go, "Hey, man, I was just being a thief," stealing stuff from their party, because they were neutral and they were chaotic and they were just being thieves, man. And so that caused a lot of problems. I learned the hard way, or was reminded of that the hard way when I first was doing pre-gens. I had some thieves, and in fact, I had to assign linemen to all the pre-gens just to force some sort of role-playing guidelines. But quickly just dumped it all for everybody because the thieves just went crazy and they're pilfering stuff and no. So be careful about enlisting players from your group to double deal them or double cross them. Unless they're identified right away by talking to the couple of people you think might be good candidates to play these other characters, don't do it with deception. That doesn't work well most of the time. But hey, that's just my opinion. I should advertise my YouTube channel a little during cons. You're right. and I saw this before I left, and I'm redoing my pre-gen sheets to have the name of my YouTube channel on the bottom instead of the blank white space that's there now. So thanks for the tip, and be advised I am doing that. All right, here we go. Here's a prickly problem. What should players do tactfully when the DM is too slow and cumbersome and they feel bored? Well, the word is certainly tactfully for a number of reasons. Pardon me. Found a good drink I wouldn't mind getting sponsored by. Okay, the word tactfully is very important here because it takes a certain mindset to want to be the DM. And a number of people that want to play, somebody has to be the DM. If you find someone that wants to be a DM and you can tolerate their play style on that, you're in heaven. But usually, especially when a new group forms, it's like, okay, who's going to be DM? You do it. No, you do it. No, I don't want to do it. No, you do it. So if you're in that circumstance where it's the only person that was willing to be the DM, you're kind of stuck. If you if one or more of the players have a significant amount of experience, particularly if they have more years playing than the DM, the best thing to do is take them aside away from the game and ask the DM how you can help them to speed up a little bit and make the game progress faster, and be straight with them that it's kind of slow and we'd like to help you, if you think we can, with we've played longer, etc. Things we've seen other DMs do, and you can try it that way. If you got another DM sitting in the wings, you can decide to take a break and start a new campaign with different characters. Yeah, nobody wants to sit there twiddling the thumbs while the DM's sitting there behind the screen, rifling through papers and trying to find something or looking up a rule or whatever. I understand. It's frustrating. But you have to weigh the circumstances. If that DM is the only person willing to be DM, how far could you push them? No, I guess I'm supposed to be farther back. Okay, yeah, I guess you're supposed to see more of me. That's what I've been told by a couple of well-meaning people. Let's see, what's next? Okay, this was real interesting, and it hit on something I can give very detailed advice on from other experience. I got a question for you, something that might be a minor issue for most, but I struggle with sometimes. Do you have any suggestions for making tactical maps for non-dungeon areas? Places like churches or manors, or even smaller things like shops. I want to keep them realistic, but I'm so used to drawing dungeons with huge chambers and long hallways and things like that. It's hard for me to keep them grounded. I mostly play using theater of the mind with no minis, but having a map as DM helps me a lot. Well, as it so happens, many years ago, I had two friends, both dead now, one from heart failure and another from a brain tumor, that were also gamers. And we were in business together. And we had a business called The Measure Man. And at one point, we had about 60, 65 carpet and flooring businesses around the greater Cincinnati area that we were working for, doing all their measurements for flooring. And we also had a few decorators that we did measurements for. I did those because they were much more detailed. And I even knew how to measure houses for siding and roofs for shingles. But we primarily measured houses. And at the time, it was mostly for carpeting. Here's what you do. Get yourself a pad of graph paper. Get a pad. You can find them. Get a pad. The tactile sensation of the pad is, I think, part of the learning process. Get at least a 25-foot tape measure. Don't go out and buy one, borrow one, whatever. But you want at least a 25-foot tape measure. And you want a pencil. That's right, pencil. Because you're going to make mistakes and it's easier to fix. And get in one room that's in the corner of your house and measure your house. Run the tape from wall to wall, run the tape from wall to wall, draw it out on graph paper. 1 foot to 1 square. Use 4 or 5 to the inch. I prefer 5, but you can get by with, 4 is easier because most people map with 4. 4, so it's 4 to the inch, graph paper, 1 square to 1 foot. So a 12 by 12 room is 12 squares by 12 squares. Mark where the doors are. Draw the hallways. Measure all the floor in your house. Pretend it's for tile, carpet, hardwood, whatever. That's not the point. Measure it. Measure the basement if you have some furnished rooms down there. Measure upstairs if you have a 2-story house. The process of measuring your house, and hey, if you got a friend or you have access, you can stay late after work and measure the office or whatever. It will help you scale down. Because when we were measuring feet and half feet, and marking inches, because it's critical. You don't need the inches, you don't need the half feet. But get a sense of how big ordinary rooms are and say, okay, how big is that store likely to be? A shop in the front, storage in the back or in the basement, or maybe in between the storage and the front there's a small office or whatever. But now you can see that shops can be built like a shotgun building. They can just be square. You can add on wings. Manor houses are fun to draw. Now, when you're going to do a manor house, I recommend that you change the scale on your graph. Either use smaller square graph paper, because you won't get a manor house on regular graph paper, or change your scale. 2 feet to the square instead of 1. That practice should help you develop another set of pathways in your mapping, the map, whatever part of the brain it is that we do mapping with. That should set up some new pathways for you. And I also think that if you have access to some different shaped places, go measure them. Just, do sketches. Get an idea of what real, everybody used to joke about the 10 by 10 rooms. Well, guess what? And after the war, clear up into the 60s, lots and lots and lots of houses were built with bedrooms that were a little less than 12 in one direction and maybe as much as 16 in another, but part of that was only usable as it was a closet. I mean, you'd be surprised how small we actually live in. If you have one of those laser pointers, go into your bank one day and just, tell them what you're doing. Somebody sees a red dot on the, accidentally on their forehead. You don't want them freaking out thinking there's a sniper in the room. But shoot that thing around and get a sense of, okay, this is a bank. That would be a banquet hall, whatever. Look at floor plans in books. It's really not as hard as you think. What I would love to do is get with somebody like Alyssa Fadden and have her let me run wild on a block or so of her Imola map. I just found out that Leonardo figured out the way to do the first map that looks like it was aerial centuries before there were balloons. And that's what Alyssa does, just those amazing Imola style maps. And I'd love to, take a block and go down into the fine detail in the rooms, so that you had encounter maps in the buildings. Because I don't think enough people pay enough attention to having stuff happen in town. But anyway, that's just a suggestion for putting some new neural pathways in your gourd. Let's see, what's next? Oh, okay. I got a package in the mail today. 10 Speed Press has come out with another one of these amazing books for young adventurers, a young adventurer's guide. This one is Wizards and Spells. Now, glancing through that, there's been some changes made that I don't, it's not the way I play. Clerics can use swords, and that was always a big no-no. Clerics weren't supposed to shed blood, ho, 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 which, of course they didn't shed blood with a mace because you couldn't see through the helmet and see it leaking into his armor. But anyway, it's a really interesting book. Again, if you've got young readers that have an interest in fantasy, this explains the different kinds of wizards according to their system and the fields that they work in. The clerics are considered wizards, so, are lumped in as our druids. But it's a really interesting book, and good grief, there must be 7 or 8 of them now. I'm not even sure how many they've sent me. But a really interesting little book. Okay, that goes into my prop floor. Okay, let's talk about TotalCon. Number 34. That'll tell you something right there. I'll thank them for the lovely ball cap with their logo and the Curmudgeon on it that they made for me. If I wore it, you couldn't see my eyes. And, we've already been through why I wear this short-billed hat. Anyway, TotalCon 34. I've been going for probably 10, 11 years. I'm not sure. And it just gets smoother. It grows a little every year. A very nice, controlled growth. You never feel like you're being overwhelmed. And it was nice weather in a legal state. What can I say? I have a lot of things to say, actually. The fact that these guys have been doing it for all these years really shows. The fact that they have monthly meetings all year round really shows. Just runs all smooth as all get out. Rain or shine, it hasn't mattered to them. This year's theme was Saturday morning cartoons. And it played all throughout the weekend, starting with when you walked in with all the sugary cereals that used to be advertised on Saturday morning was TotalCon cereal. Notice the vegetable, the fruit is dice, and on the back there's even a game. Of course, you get to the fork in the road and you flip a coin. Heads, you really have tails. You run into 2 ogres and a troll and you die, start again. So it was just brilliant stuff. They got fake cartoons on the side and fake nutrition. And I took mine apart so I could bring it home, and I've got to tape it up a little bit, but it was worth the effort. There were people dressed as cartoon characters. Thank God nobody running around without shirts, being Thunder or the Barbarian or something like that. Thank God. If it'd been Gen Con in the summer, there would have been, and many of them shouldn't. At one point when I was in one of the game rooms running my game, there was a Scooby-Doo game going, a Scooby-Doo role-playing game going on in the other corner. They had 6 players. They had dug up a distantly related cousin who was in an episode once to get the 6th player. I don't know if they got to draw to be Scooby or not. But they seemed to be having a great time. And another time there was a guy at a table next to me that was dressed like the Abominable Snowman, or there's some character that's on cartoons that he seemed to be having a great time. There were lots of good, interesting games going on. Several areas of fun. Two things I found. I really admire people that have come up with a new idea. And I ran into a company, and I have both of these companies. I'll hold up a thing in a minute if you want to copy it down. The first one is called Adventure Awaits. And I was taken by their booth. They had lots of little boxes, and they had spell components and potion bottles and little potion kits and that. Cute, window dressing, cute. But what really grabbed me was their imagination box. This was a wooden, nicely carved, probably laser carved wooden box. And inside it had all sorts of little nicky-nacky things. A little doll, a little tin cannon, a little thimble, just things to spark the imagination. And I thought, wow, I'm always for anything that sparks the imagination. I don't want my great-grands playing out predetermined stuff. I want to give them some toys with which they can play their own games, make up their own games, stuff like that. And only after they can do that will I expose them to games with rules and stuff. But I thought this box is just wow. Plus, again, the potions, the spell ingredients, very clever stuff, reasonably priced as those things go, very reasonably priced. And you should check her out. I'll give you the website and the Twitter and the Facebook and all that stuff in a minute. The other one was much more ephemeral. It was a chocolate company called Dark Matter Chocolate. And they had chocolate frogs. But I tried one and ended up getting the bar. The bar, oddly enough, is made in the shape of an Imola map. So anyway, I highly recommend the Weasley. That's raspberry and ginger. And it's in 62% dark chocolate. It's really tasty. Now, those two companies are right here. And as soon as I can figure out you can read it, I have to see by the glare. Oh, there it is. Okay. Adventure Awaits me.com, and pay attention to the caps and as we used to say in calligraphy class, the major skills and the minor skills, because they will be important. Dark Matter Chocolate is on the bottom. I don't know how long this is going to take. Of course, you can always freeze it, and if it doesn't blur too bad, you can read it. Pardon me, I need a little more throat oil. I ran a bunch of games. Excuse me. I ran a bunch of games and had a bunch of results, and had something I never thought I would happen again. I nearly had a TPK in my Wheel of Blame game, which I designed so that I would never have another TPK. For years and years at cons, I TPK'd everybody about 85% of the time. And it was fun, and they had fun too, and that. But then I changed after the cancer and the surgery and stuff. So I made this game. The Wheel of Blame is AD&D that denies the existence of a box. I give out pre-gens, third to fifth level. There's a pile of them they get to choose. There's more than there are characters to play. There's 8 spots in each one. And everybody they pick a character, and then they get a index card, and on that index card they put two things, and then they give me the index cards anonymously, and I shuffle through them, and I look through them, and I make up the adventure using those elements. Each index card will have each index card generates an encounter in which both of those elements, or the suggestion of both of those elements, will occur or happen or be there. Of course, if I do my job well, the neatest thing at the end of the game, when we go through the cards and everybody takes blame or shame for the card, is, oh my God, I died on my own card, because I disguise them and I hide them, and I tell them, don't give me too many words. The game is just, it's D&D, and we roll hits and get hit points, and of course they have lots of potions going in, and that's the whole thing. Well, somebody had put on one of the cards the Garden of Earthly Delights, and every one of them failed the wisdom check. So they were all taken off one at a time around, and I had not foreseen, I had not foreseen all 8 players, or 7, there were 7 or 8 in that game. I had not foreseen them all failing their checks. And so I was dumbfounded. And I said, well, this is either the first time I've had a TPK in the Wheel of Blame, and they're all going, oh, cool, cool, cool. Or, you know, I said, so let's take 10 minutes, because I usually take a break or two during my games. And I went outside and had a smoke and thought about it and tried, and so I figured out a way. And so I woke one of them up, who then woke up the rest of them by going from tent to pavilion to whatever their ideal thing was, and stabbing them in the butt with a big pin and waking them up, which was a great source of laughter. And so we avoided the TPK. But never thought it happened. Now, as it happened, Jim Wampler took a couple of pictures of a couple of my games and made a post about something, used the word diverse or diversity, and referenced Jolly Blackburn's Weird Pete, the store owner, and some troll shot back about, oh yeah, look at that, a bunch of white guys, not diverse. Well, trolls, I run games for who shows up. During my 4 games, I had at least 2 games that had females, at least 2 games who had kids, even though one of the games I said it was not, teens, 3 of them were teens okay, and one of them wasn't, but I ended up with kids in all of them, or the wrong ones. Anyway, it's whoever signs up. Now, horror of horrors, I actually had an African-American female at my table, and she was a great player, and we had a wonderful time. And I had a couple of 12-year-olds, and I had another couple of ladies at various times, and we had wonderful times. So don't be a snark, because you should see the other tables that other people are running. And I can't help it if they don't want to play what I run. I play OD&D, and in OD&D, we really didn't care what chromosomes you had. We were here to have a good time. Okay, another complaint. I was in a scooter. 3 other attendees were in power chairs or scooters. 2 were in wheelchairs, and I saw one with a walker. There is a ramp at the one side of the main junction to get to the long wing of rooms, all the conference rooms that are game rooms. I got really tired of staring down walkers that would see me coming up at the bottom and try to walk down past me and squeeze past me anyway. So, you rude bastards, you know who you are. Well, probably half of you don't know who you are. Why don't you remember next time for whose convenience those ramps were made? Not you lazy shits that'll walk down an 9-foot ramp instead of taking 2 steps. And that's all there were, 2 steps. If it weren't for insurance possibilities, I'd probably have clobbered a couple of you right at the ankle level. But then that would have made troubles for the people at the con who are my friends, and I wouldn't want to do that. Now we get to the fun, adventurous part I had this weekend. At one point, the Pathfinder Society is very present at this con, has been for many years, and up to this point, other than a little uptight once or twice, good neighbors. There came a time period where they were overbooked, and so they were granted a table in the industry guest room. There was a young male with blue hair who had painted his mustache white. Somewhere between 25 and 30, maybe. I don't know who paints their hair blue like that. Bright blue. Anyway, I got there early for my event, and he was already had his table filled, and we listened to his annoying, piercing voice on the other side of the room as he basically read a novella of background information to his players. And pretty soon my players, as they're showing up, are looking down the table toward me about, hey, what's going on here? How long is this going to go on? So I finally said, okay. I stood up and I walked over, and I stood respectfully a few feet away from his table. He looked up at me 2-3 times and kept going on. And when he finally had nothing else to do, what? And I pointed out that as I had heard every word of his background briefing to all his players, and I was sitting, and I pointed where I was sitting, which was almost as far away in the room as you could get from him, I suggested that we'd have to have some consideration about the volumes in here. And this guy went bug shit. And I kind of recoiled. And he said something about coming over with attitude, yada, da, 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 do. And if I was going to come over there and address him in such a manner, then he was going to address me back. And I really, really thought I was being quite polite, gray-haired old man that I am, and this young pup. And I listened to his tirade for a few seconds, and I raised my voice slightly and said, you think this is attitude? You haven't seen anything yet, and started to turn away. And I turned back and I said, and for that matter, you snowflake, I don't know what it is that's got you so upset, but I suggest you chill out. Now, I had never called anybody a snowflake to their face or even in print. And it seemed so right. And it was. And I walked away and we got on. As it so happened, the incident was heard about by the local regional director of the Pathfinder Association, who immediately sought me out, apologized, and was very appalled at the treatment this guy had given me. And I said, well, look, I know he looked at my name tag a couple of times, but he's young enough. I don't care that if he doesn't know who I am. I said, though this is an occasion, a very rare occasion, I had to bite my tongue to keep from leaning over the table and pointing my finger in his face and telling him I'm one of the people that enabled him to be there today being an asshole. But I didn't. And he was very apologetic, and he said no, he was certain that the guy had no idea who I was. And I pointed out that apparently he hadn't read the program book either, because it's my face big. Anyway, so he apologized on the guy's behalf, and I know the guy got a butt chewing. And the result of it is, after all the noise level in there, I'm not going to run, and this will take effect as the year goes on and I go to conventions. I'm not going to run games in rooms that have more than 2 other games running in them. I had no voice left at the end of Saturday night, because subconsciously, instead of everybody quieting down, when the situation starts arising, everybody talks quieter. When we all just somebody blow a whistle, drop it back down, we can all hear each other at our tables. But it's a phenomenon that I've seen at nearly every game con I've ever been to. But I'll not be part of it anymore. This little blue-haired twerp gives credence to the fact that some Pathfinder players seem to have gotten the addition that puts a stick up their butt. But I have nothing against Pathfinder itself. The absolutely overwhelming majority of people I've ever met, just this little twit happened to be playing a Pathfinder game, running a Pathfinder game. Gave me some shit. That's pretty much everything I had to say. I need questions and comments and whatever, so I have something to talk about next week. In the meantime, I'll put this up one more time. Adventure awaits me. Let me get the angle right here so you can read it. Get it out of the light. There we go. AdventureAwaitsMe.com. Dark Matter Chocolate. Three weeks, it's GaryCon. I won't be doing one that Friday either, but I'll certainly be doing a full report afterwards. Again, with a little wrap up about TotalCon. Great convention, supremely well run, very efficient, very, very good to their guests, and extremely good to me. I recommend it if you live on the East Coast. Go to Marlborough, Mass. Next year, and go to TotalCon. I'm going to be out on the East Coast again, but it'll be in October in Maine. And they already invited me back next February, so I plan on going back again, because why break a winning streak? And on that note, I will say Dodada Govi. Oh, hello. I'm still figuring out when this thing starts. Welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success.